and have a great show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Come with us on a journey into the unknown, the unexplained, and the unbelievable. We will test your senses and challenge your beliefs. A world where science and religion clash. Or do they? You will meet real people and hear real stories, but you will not believe. You will witness strange sights and hear strange sounds, but you will not believe. This is the New England Ghost Project. Welcome to the nightmare.
Well, good evening, or is it morning? Could be afternoon. Welcome to Ghost Chronicles, the conspiracy theories. I am Ron Kolick, your host, or am I? New England's own Van Helsing, and joining me all the way from the UK is the gold standard in ghost hunting, Mr. Steve Parsons.
Or am I?
There you go. We don't know, do we?
I might be AI generated.
We all could be dead and just not know it.
That'd be something, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Well, isn't that one of the theories of ghosts, right? That they just don't know they're dead?
Yeah.
Which is probably the least that I can really wrap my little head around.
Always tickles me, when you're on an investigation and somebody shouts out, if you can hear my voice, and then they go, "Do you realize, when did you die? What's your name? Do you know you're dead?"
Mm.
It's like going to come as a nasty surprise, isn't it? You're happily going about your day, then somebody all of a sudden pops up and goes, "Do you realize you're dead?"
It's kind of like the Sixth Sense, right? The guy there didn't know he was dead, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. That's probably what I based it on, that theory. But
And of course,
interesting stuff.
also the premise of the others as well, isn't it? Who's ghost?
That's true. Well, yeah, sort of. Yeah, it was good. Yes.
That was a clever twist in that film.
That was a very, very good movie. If you haven't seen the others, you ought to definitely watch it. Nicole Kidman's in it, so it's worth watching. Just
people say to me often, what's your favorite spooky movie?
Really?
Yeah, it's like, no, it's not Ghostbusters. It's not, it's the others, because I think that it kind of sums it up. Because we don't know. We don't know what death is. We don't know what ghost, and it could be the other way round. The whole thing could be on its head, topsy-turvy world.
I think it's, to me, the movie Ghost is, I think, how can I say this? That I think it's, to me, it seems like it's an accurate portrayal of perhaps what it's like. Because, my own personal beliefs, you know what I mean? So it's not.
Well, you want to spend it? You spend eternity at a potter's wheel.
Yeah, that's it, with a naked girl. Yeah.
Well, I suppose it's better than spending eternity as a soap bubble.
No, I just like the little black guys that come and grab the people and take them away. Oh, speaking about that, and a sad note today, our nemesis Joe Nichols died.
I read about that. That was a couple of days ago.
A couple of days ago, but it's the first time I'm on the air since.
Yeah. And a happy birthday.
No, thank you too. So
welcome.
I don't know what the two of them have in common, but I imagine
just you're one step nearer.
Am I reincarnated Joe Nichols? Is that what you're saying? Or maybe I'm possessed by him?
If you're obsessed with him, I don't know about possessed with him. I mean, what harm to you had Joe Nichols ever done?
Because he told me who told the newspaper who I was without ever meeting me or knowing anything about me.
Oh, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. He told people a lot about the paranormal
I
without.
didn't tell anybody anything right now that we know of.
No, but I mean, he spent his latter career telling people, it was all bunkum, but without actually knowing about what bunk. In fact, he debunked everything. The Loch Ness monster was another.
Mm.
I don't want to talk ill of the dead, but
No,
at,
no.
at the same time, we can still discuss his
Philosophy.
lack of contribution to the field.
Mm. That works. But he was he's finding out now, Ro, isn't he? He's jumped way ahead of us.
Oh, he knows.
Yeah, he
Or
knows.
or maybe he doesn't, because if he's right, then he won't know because it's the end.
Ah.
Yeah. So I mean, if he's right, he won't
Unless
know.
the little black guys come and took him away.
Well, I was going to suggest if he's right, he will never know. But if he's wrong, he'll find out pretty quickly.
Oh, hell yeah. Literally. So, Joe, if you can hear our voice, can you do us an EVP here in the studio?
Yeah. Do you think he'd admit he's wrong?
Hell no. All
No,
right.
we shouldn't talk ill of the dead.
No,
I
no.
mean,
Yeah.
but I was reading some of the bits, and they're talking about, and I thought, no, actually, he didn't actually make a contribution. It simply debunking something, simply or trying to debunk something by poo-pooing something is not really contributing much to the development of our knowledge.
Yeah, that's the thing that I kind of was, he gave plausible explanations for a lot of things, which, I agree with him on certain things, but without really doing any type of field investigation on it. And like, for instance, the statue in was it London or wherever it was that was turning by itself,
Just the
right?
statue.
Yeah. I mean, at least in Dr. Ann Winsper went and investigated and found what she believes is the cause for it. But just to sit from a farm and say, well, it's this or it's that, without really, proving it, it's just as lame as believing it's paranormal. You know what I mean?
I think that's the fault with many skeptics. I mean, it's not just Joe. There are, Richard Wiseman, there are others who make a career out of debunking, but they don't actually take the time often because it sounds to their way of thinking. Professor Brian Cox is probably one of the biggest exponents of this particular practice, because he just outright dismisses any concept of ghosts.
Mm.
They're not anything he would consider as rational, and he virtually ridicules any discussion or debate on the subject.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, to have that degree of closed-mindedness, particularly when you're a scientist, is just wrong, because science works by challenging the accepted belief and viewpoint.
Mm-hmm.
That's the basis of all science, is you challenge the accepted norms, and you use those challenges to develop new ideas, new perspectives,
Right.
points of view, and then you expect them to be challenged.
Yeah, right. That's what it's about. That's
But
the whole purpose.
it's like there should never be. It was a very popular phrase during COVID. Was this the science indeed with global warming, man-made
Conspiracy. I like it. We're right in.
They talk about, the science is settled. Well, no, science doesn't work by being settled. Science works best when it's unsettled, when there are people who challenge and who critique and who, so skeptics have their role. but closed-minded skepticism for the sake of just being contrary
They're just
is,
basically trying to make a name for themselves.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
Was it Einstein that said the mind is like a parachute? It's only good if it's open. You only works if it's open or something like that. I forget what it is.
it only works when you pull the cord.
Yeah, something like that.
Oh no, that's Action Man. G.I. Joe. But no, I think you should be um critical in your thinking. You should never just blindly accept anything just because you read it, just because somebody told you, just because.
Mhm.
Should always say, why is that? Why are you saying that? Why is that the case? Why is that that?
But you have told me in the past on the show that, in fact, that the certain things that are accepted already. Why would we waste any energy on them? Like with certain uh,
Well, yeah, because
things
certain
we know in science that proven over and over again. Not
well,
saying that there isn't an exception to the rules, but yeah.
no,
And
they're
why
not.
would we waste time doing that?
Because we have to chat because we have a finite number of resources, and because certain things have been experimented and looked at and critically evaluated a number of times and have stood the test of criticism and of scrutiny, then we have to be realistic and be pragmatic and say, I accept, okay, that has now reached a point where we can be satisfied, and then we can move forward, and
Yeah,
we use that to move forward. But what the problem with hardline skepticism is it can't ever move forward because it
that's
never accepts anything as a as a as a stepping stone, as a rung on the ladder.
hmm
So we have to be pragmatic and um,
yeah,
reasonable in
yeah.
in how we apply our critical thinking.
I agree with you. And so, which takes us to our topic of the day is conspiracies, correct?
Correct.
So, conspiracies, by the way, through most of the search, are more widely accepted by the young than older people.
I don't know. I mean, let's look at the major conspiracy theory or um, claim of conspiracy that's going on at the moment, and that's what the man-made climate change. And when you see the protesters telling us that we must not use any more oil and we must, sell the cars and take to bicycles or sell the bicycles and kill the cows and all these other, they are predominantly here in the UK at least, um, middle years and upward into the elder population.
hmm
They form the bulk of the protesters. These so-called sort of grey-haired uh, eco warriors. So yes, there are a lot of young, but I think the young are too busy just being, dealing with the problems of life.
No, they. I was looking at a psychology report. That's where I get this from, and they're the ones that promote it on social media.
Oh yeah,
More,
but
and
they're the ones that we hear from because it doesn't take a lot of people to make a lot of not a few people can make a lot of noise on social media.
And
And
so
so
the question was why do people believe in conspiracies? And it's basically the fear of the unknown and fear of things they can't control. Uh, if like the earth is warming and they can't control it, so they come up with a conspiracy that whatever the particular conspiracy is. Uh, or you may even have social pressure where you know you like the landing on the moon is a flat Earth even is a lot of times the information is ignored because they can challenge it and feel that they are empowered more than the people that actually were involved in it.
I think you're absolutely right. And for some people, that is absolutely, they're getting dragged along by peer pressure.
Yep.
There are protesters out there who don't I've seen them being interviewed, and they can't answer the question, why are you here protesting? They are protesting because all their friends are protesting. Peer pressure, the herd mentality. And you see that a lot in politics. You see this idea of, well, let's take your president. Trump is a misogynistic Nazi. Well, what's your evidence for that? Well, everybody knows it. Well, give me one example. Well, yeah, I'm not going to engage with you anymore. And then they walk away
Because they don't have the answer.
because they don't have the answer. But they're there protesting, thinking that they have to do something about something that they don't know anything about. And it's the same with the climate lobby.
And
Because
you
if you
get.
look at
All right, go
science,
ahead.
I was going to say, if you look at the science, yes, the climate is changing. There is nobody, I don't think anybody, any scientist, any climatologist would dispute the fact that the climate is changing. But the climate has always changed.
That's
We are
fair enough.
we are exiting an ice age. Therefore, it is going to get progressively a little warmer. Each century will be warmer than the last. But we're being driven by a political narrative in order.
We are in a way, but it's. I
Well,
think
lots of
it's been
sloppy, isn't there?
politicized more than it should. For instance, if we look at pollution in general, most people say, "Oh, that's really," they'll tell you it's poppycock and a lot of things. I mean, uh, a lot of that stuff really makes an impact on us and our environment. For instance, I grew up in the '70s, and in fact, when Earth Day first came out, I was the campus coordinator for my college, and we and I designed in a manufacturing environmental teachers. I have my degree in environmental science. We did make an impact on the shape of our planet by making certain corrections to our lifestyles, which there's nothing wrong with it. It's not a conspiracy. It's not anything else. It's something that's science. It's we took phosphates out of soaps and in laundry detergent, and it cut down on the amount of phosphate in the water and helped prevent eutrophication. And I mean, rivers that were polluted, you couldn't even touch it without getting some kind of germs. The fish are in them now. The people are boating in them and everything else. So we have seen the change for the good. But
I absolutely agree, and there are many things in which we do need to take care of the planet on which we live. We recycle stuff, which recycling strikes me as being one of those sort of we've got all of local government,
mhm,
and recycling is being driven here hard to save the planet.
mhm.
But in reality, we're not even doing half of what the generations before us did
Oh, hell yeah.
in terms of, let's recycle stuff. Okay, well, I grew up in a world where, as when I was a child, we recycle, we took back glass bottles and got
Newspapers.
a penny. We
Mm,
collect newspapers, we collected plastic, batteries, and
mhm.
these things were not sent to landfill. These
Nope.
things these were useful resources. And when the country had come through World War II, resources were finite. We didn't have a lot of resources. The country, even when I was, a child growing up in the 1960s, there were still deprivations and shortages as a result of World War II. And so it was the perfectly normal thing to do to collect and recycle stuff. Old clothes, old woolen, knitted jumpers were picked apart,
Yeah.
unraveled, re-knitted into. And the modern generation coming along and saying, you've got to recycle this and you've got to. But this is what we were doing. When did we stop doing it? And when did we have to relearn this skill? Yes, I drive a hybrid car because one, it's good for the environment because you're chucking noxious fumes out the back of an internal combustion engine.
Which, by the way, Donald Trump is trying to get rid of.
And two, it's economically more sensible given the price of gas here in the UK. So I don't need a lecture from, a spotty 16-year-old telling me that I need to do more to save the planet by it makes no sense.
But even recycling, right? We talk about conspiracy. There's a conspiracy that, okay, all our recycling is up in the landfill anyways. They don't process it. They just dump it.
Here in the UK, there have been articles where they've followed it, and it does a lot of it does.
Well, it does, right?
Yeah.
But does that mean you should stop recycling? No, you're doing your job. Your job is to recycle, and you recycle. If there's a problem down the line, that's where it has to be corrected, and that should be corrected through government.
And I think but if we want to protest, I think we protest against the fact that the government are not doing. They're always telling us you need to do this, you should do that, you have to do this. But they don't do anything at all except tell us what we need to do.
Fair enough.
And I think, change has to happen. We don't want, I'm quite I like to research everything. It's part of the investigator in me, and I like to find out both sides. And we go back to man-made global climate change. One of the leading a person you will know from your era, the founder of Greenpeace.
Oh yeah.
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 A perfectly reasonable man. He has all of the right qualifications, and he now said there is no such thing as man-made global warming. There is nothing we can do, and in fact, he's saying we're actually doing more damage by reducing carbon dioxide because the plants love it, and we are starving them of the basic, necessity of life if you're a plant.
Yeah, it's what you want to hear something weird now.
Well, he has.
Yeah, okay. We're talking about carbon dioxide, so let me get this in because I'll forget it. It's a weird fact that I don't know where I got it now because it's been so long ago. I talked about it on the morning show one time. They said that I believe when Genghis Khan was ruler, he had killed so many people that there was a reduction in the amount of carbon monoxide in the world. I mean, a big reduction because, as you know, we do emit carbon monoxide. We breathe in oxygen, emit carbon dioxide. So I don't know, can't tell you any more than that. That's a fact I heard. I don't remember the source or anything else, but I know that people say, well, how would they know that? Of course, we can know that by looking at plant material, for instance, or a rock strata.
We look at the ice cores.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways we can look at it, but it's an interesting thing, though. I mean, what's the other one? Cow farts are causing global warming.
Well, they're now. I mean, and this is where it comes back to money because there's a lot of the biopharmaceutical companies manufacturing an additive that they give to cows to stop them farting.
Yeah. What if I could get one for me?
But the thing is, the guy who founded Greenpeace, Patrick Moore, he says actually the CO2 levels are nearly at starvation levels as far as plants are concerned.
And that's amazing because we got less plants than we had in the past.
Yeah, we need more because we had more CO2 in the past. We are about 1/4 of the CO2 that we had 2,000 years ago.
That's weird.
And
You
we
would
are,
think we had more. We have far more people than we had 2,000 years ago. We have so much man-made production of carbon monoxide that carbon dioxide that you think that would, I don't know,
well,
it's weird.
all of our efforts to reduce, CO2, which Patrick Moore says are in vain because we are that that is actually damaging to plants.
Interesting.
Is as of nothing,
Which is true. I agree. I totally understand that. Yeah.
which is as of nothing compared to one volcano, which
Mm.
can undo decades worth of man-made all cow farts and
Yeah, Dan.
electric vehicles.
Cows can't even fart. What kind of life do they have?
Well, here in the UK and in France and in
They have
some of the
plugs in them.
countries, no, they're actually telling farmers that they are harming the environment and that farming itself. We have protesters here in the UK saying that farming is harming the environment. Is
You know what
causing.
kills me? Where do these people find time to do all these protesting? Don't they work for a living?
No, because
Wouldn't interfere with their protesting?
it's bad for their mental health. It causes them.
Okay. I understand that. So it's a mental health problem. Okay, I got it.
So yeah,
But anyway,
but
interesting.
that has to be the biggest conspiracy of all at the moment that we are dealing with as a population. And we got onto this because of the age of the protesters. Yes, we are more aware of the younger protesters who are active on social media because one or two can make a lot of noise
Mhm.
with their influencers and followers. But when you actually see on boots on the ground protests,
They're the old hippies that are left over.
they are, we see them every single weekend. I see them, and they are always middle to elder years.
The thing with that type of protesters, though, is what they're, I mean, you have like the mother syndrome where you have people are like, oh, I'm doing it for my children, so I want to protest and save them, whatever. It's the same reason, the anti-vaxxers. They think they're saving their children because they heard that vaccines cause autism and therefore blah, blah, blah. But anyway, so they all have these motives that they're lacking this out. So I want to be a mother, so I'll go out and save the planet for the children or whatever. Unfortunately, we got to take a break. We're coming up on the break right here.
We'll return to this particular conspiracy.
There's a lot of good ones. I don't want to mess up. I don't want to get some of these other beauties in that I came across.
Well, we'll bring this one to a conclusion after the break.
I'll let you do that. And you're listening to Ghost Chronicles International, growing ever so big right here on TogiNet, and we're all good podcasts played. And I am Ron Kolick. That is Steve Parsons. And we'll be right back after the fall. Oh, wait a minute. We are brought to you by Circles of Wisdom, 386 Merrimack Street, Methuen, Massachusetts, the Glant Messier Family Law Group, 55 High Street, North Andover, Massachusetts, and our very good friends at Ghost Chronicles Radio on Patreon. We'll be right back.
Do you have a paranormal event, book, or something else you want people to know about? Then why not advertise it on Ghost Chronicles Radio? With over 150,000 downloads a month, get your message out to an audience that's interested in the subject. We have a plan at a cost that fits your needs. For more information, contact Ron Kolick at anyghostproject@comcast.net or call 978-455-6678.
Located in Illinois, there lies a sleepy little town where nothing is a common occurrence.
You going to that party in town tonight?
Heck yeah! I only turned 18 once.
That is until the night of celebration.
Where the hell is she? Oh no. No, 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 Jessica!
What's happening?
From the creators of Shadowhunters, Bite Me, comes a tale of primal terror and grindcore mayhem. Shadowhunters, kill, Jessica, kill!
Hello, can you hear me? My name is Harry Price. I am speaking to you via the medium of the Ghost Box. Many of you will know I carried out the first live radio broadcast from Haunted House way back in 1936 for the BBC. Now, thanks to the wonders of modern technology, I am still able to keep abreast of 21st century ghost hunting by listening to Ghost Chronicles International on TogiNet, ParaX Radio, the Ghost Channel, and even on something called a podcast. Two splendid chaps host it. One is an American who calls himself New England's own Van Helsing, although I have discovered his real name is Ron Kolek. The other is Stephen Parsons, and he's a paranormal scientist. Well, mustache, I'm required elsewhere on something called a K2. But don't forget, I'll be listening in every Tuesday from 8 o'clock in Great Britain and 3 o'clock on the American Eastern Seaboard. I trust you will join me there.
And if you're still with us, this is the second half of the first half of tonight's Ghost Chronicles Conspiracy Edition with maybe New England's own Van Helsing and maybe the AI-generated gold standard.
So you were about to wrap up global warming for us, I believe.
Yeah, now we can move on from that because we're going to get hate. The comments are going to be, they're just going to be hate-filled for the next week. How dare you?
So why don't we do something that you like, and that's aviation?
Chemtrails.
Okay, let's start off with chemtrails.
Yeah.
You want to talk about it?
Well, there are many aviation conspiracies, but the one that I think is the most popular, if that's the right word, are chemtrails. Chemical trails. This idea that the government is administering various noxious chemicals and agents to us for different reasons, depending upon your chosen conspiracy, by pumping it out of high-flying passenger jets as they traverse the world. And evidence of this is, well, obviously, you can see these plumes of chemicals coming out the back of aircraft engines as they fly overhead. And that's essentially chemtrails in a nutshell. Now,
And
what
this is done by the SLAP.
by the what?
SLAP. That's the acronym for Cigarette Large Scale Atmospheric Program.
There are many. There are many. In fact, there is
17% people believe in chemtrails.
What's interesting about the chemtrail theory is there are so many different variants upon it, explaining why. Everybody, they're all in agreement that these aircraft, these white trails in the sky behind jet planes, are evidence of mass chemical doping of the population and the planet, but they all differ, or a lot of them then differ as to the reasons and the rationale and who's behind it. I've seen mind control chemicals, hallucinogenics, ones to control all manner of different versions. But I mean, they cite as evidence and proof that there have been projects and programs aimed at weather modification, aimed at making it rain in desert areas, aimed at control of insect population by mass spraying of swamps. In fact, as America did with in the Vietnam War, by spraying herbicides
Yep.
over dense jungles in order to remove the leaf cover that prevented the North Vietnamese from hiding. So nobody disputes any of that. People can cite that, but that's not evidence of a chemtrail. Now, if you look at the actual science, talk to a pilot, talk to an aircraft engineer, and you say, what are those white vapor trails? Well, they're just condensation. They're called contrails. They've been well known about for over 80, 90 years now. In fact, it was one of the problems that the American bomber forces in World War II had to deal with when they were on bombing raids over Germany and Japan, because the enemy could see them coming from a very long way away.
Right.
And one of the other things that's put forward, well, some aircraft are making them and some of them aren't, and some of them, the chemtrail will stop and start. It's there for a moment, then it's gone, or some of them linger and some of them don't. But they're all perfectly well understood atmospheric phenomena, layers of different temperature air.
Yeah.
There is no mystery to the contrail, but why people believe so fervently again comes down to this idea of it's not that dissimilar to people's fear of the 5G mobile phone network rollouts, particularly here in the UK, because it coincided with COVID or shortly after.
Oh, really?
Yeah, people were actually saying here in the UK and physically damaging and destroying 5G telephone masts because they feared that these things were electromagnetically weakening the immune system in order to allow this introduced agent to become toxic.
Right. So it would kill more people, therefore reduce
Yeah.
the carbon dioxide output and save the planet. Oh, I got it.
Yeah, that was actually one of the theories.
That's unbelievable.
And these masts themselves, there were variations. There are always variations in conspiracy theories. And one of the variations was that COVID didn't exist at all as a virus, but it was simply a neurological condition caused by 5G masts, and that the biologic element was introduced in the form of they then used the mast caused neurological problems. Therefore, the fix was a vaccine. Therefore, people got vaccinated. Therefore, they got they introduced the bio element of it via the vaccine.
Mm.
There were lots of different variations, and that's I think one of the classic signs of a conspiracy is where the conspiracists, those they don't they agree that there is a
Danger or whatever.
danger,
Conspiracy. Yeah.
yeah, but they don't always, but they all fail to agree on the detail as to why, who's behind it, how is it being done,
Mm.
and what's the rationale? Because that's where the individual elements come in. So those people who believe that cows farting, therefore methane, therefore farming, therefore the fix is get rid of farmers and all go vegetarian or vegan or whatever else it is. That's their particular fix.
Mm.
And it was the same with COVID and with chemtrails.
Right.
Each if it had I think for me, if it was a plausible conspiracy, then people would be in much greater agreement as to the cause, the rationale, and the outcomes. But they're
Yeah.
not. They fall out amongst themselves. I mean, even the flat earthers can't agree on, they agree that the earth is flat, but then they can't agree on the detail as to, is there a glass dome? Is there a firmament? The
Mhm.
biggest question, I always find amusing when you're dealing with a flat earther is to say to them, well, if the earth is flat, then there must be the other side. What's underneath? What's on the
Aliens.
side?
That's what I heard. Aliens.
Well, that's one idea. Other people say, I've actually heard one flat earther saying there isn't an other side.
Oh, that makes sense. We're on the bottom of
If
what?
the
I don't know, but we're on the
earth
bottom.
is flat planar disc.
Hey, here's one I had never heard of before, and I got to ask you about it because it's about one of your countrymen.
Oh, yeah.
Numerous people, including MI5 officer Peter Wright and Soviet defector Antony Goslin, have alleged that Prime Minister Harold Wilson was a KGB spy. Did you ever hear that one?
Yes.
And was he?
I don't know.
Oh, so it's possible?
Well, we're learning in life that a lot of things are possible that we didn't
Fair enough.
realize at the time.
So the Earth may be flat then.
I don't think that's possible, but there are, when you're dealing with people, I don't know what Harold Wilson's. In fact, incidentally, I went to the same school as he did.
Did you really?
I did. I really went to the same school as Harold Wilson. Although he was a year or two above me,
Yeah.
like 60 years before me.
So he picked.
But he went to the same school as me.
Interesting. I mean, recently we did a show on Antarctica, and that is just loaded with conspiracy theories.
Oh yeah,
And
not bases, UFO bases.
yeah, my favorite one was that there's actually a plywood wall around it that has mountains painted on it and everything to fool everybody so they can't see what's really going on the other side. Which, by the way, is I guess is the entrance to Hollow Earth. I don't know, but
Well,
that's one of the
wasn't
things.
Commander Baird, the famous
I read
American
that.
explorer, didn't he inadvertently
Fly
discover?
into it. Yep.
Yeah, flew over the hole in the Antarctic Peninsula and then ended up on the inside
Hmm.
and wrote a book about it.
Yeah. Well, no, it wasn't in the book. Wasn't it his journal or something?
Well, he still wrote it, didn't he?
It's his lost journal, which was found, by the way. So, like Hitler diaries, maybe. I don't know.
Is that the one he dropped off at Atlantis
Yeah, probably on the way
on the
out.
way back? You see, I mean, it's there have been lots of people studying why do people believe in conspiracies, and I think the conclusion is we don't, as individuals, a lot of what the world does, a lot of what we see around us, a lot of how things work are completely, I would say, alien to most people. If we look at the planet Earth that we're on now, and you use your own eyes and ears, and you look at it and you go, it's flat. There is no way, how could it be circular? How could it be a ball? Because I cannot experience it as a ball. I experience it as flat. The horizon is, whenever you look at the horizon, it's perfectly flat and level. So how can it be a sphere? It doesn't make any sense. And there is this sort of cognitive dissonance going on between the experienced reality and actual reality that for some people is just an insurmountable problem. And so they try to rationalize it, and we talk about it in ghost hunting. People, rely on their senses. We have to
Sure.
rely on senses. We wouldn't be able to cross the highway, cross a road without getting hit by a car if we didn't rely on our senses.
But we don't like the unknown, so we just want to, that's why people see, pareidola work is so strong in the paranormal because there's a lot of unknown that we don't know about. Africa was the dark continent. That was the one where all kinds of strange conspiracy world. But then, we've explored so much of it now. Antarctica, we know very little about it because nobody wants to go there. But so
I think we actually know a great deal about Antarctica.
I know we do, but people don't know it themselves because there's not as many stories and everything about Antarctica as there is about Africa and the rest of our world. Look at space and the moon. I mean, there's NASA has a website with listing all the conspiracies and debunking them. But then, of course, one of the conspiracies is that NASA doesn't exist. So I don't know if that's really
Well, I mean, one conspiracy that really has suffered in recent years is that we never landed on the moon, and that the whole Apollo program was a setup, and it was filmed in a studio, and it was
in
done by
Antarctica, actually, behind the plywood wall.
yeah. Well, I mean, was it only a few years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, that was it the Chinese space probe took some really high resolution pictures of the lunar landers, Apollo 11, 12, 14, 15, 16, and 17.
And there's been a bunch of probes since. We just had 2 recent ones. One of them fell
Yeah, no,
over.
what I mean is you can actually see on a photograph
Yep.
taken by one of America's considered adversaries. So if China didn't, when China had a look, and if they found that Apollo 11 wasn't there, they would have, made big news about it not being there. Hey, look, the Americans lied to us. Don't trust us. They lie. There is no Apollo 11 lander in the Sea of Tranquility. But the Chinese said, "Oh yeah, there it is. Look, you can even see, on the other ones, you can even see the lunar rover parked nearby where they left it in the parking lot."
All my work for nothing. It's rotting away out there. Damn it.
We can always go back and get it.
I think about it. Yeah.
But so
Probably get a ride on one of Musk's rockets, right?
but
The ones
there
that
is
keep blowing up.
there are a bunch of I mean, the fact that man never landed on the moon, the Apollo 11 conspiracy, was probably one of the greatest conspiracies of the late 20th century. And it has now been thoroughly put to bed, thoroughly debunked. And you don't hear, there are still some diehards who still say that the whole thing was a setup.
Mm-hmm.
And they respond to, oh, well, America did send something to the moon, but it wasn't astronauts. This was done years and years and years later to cover up for the fact that they didn't do it the first time around.
Ah, okay. Okay, good enough.
But I mean, that is clinging to a piece of driftwood after the boat has sunk.
It's like, Apollo 10, they said, they went to the dark side. There was a practice for the Apollo 11, and they separated the command module from the lunar excursion module. And while they were out there, they heard that high pitched noise. So automatically it became alien transmission. It just jumped to that from whatever.
Well, there is also which NASA has said is a fake communication between I think it was Apollo 11 or 12 and NASA, where no, it was 11, and Neil Armstrong saying they're out there watching us, they're on the rim of the crater.
Oh yeah.
That transmission never took place. But there are transcripts of that never took place conversation that are used as evidence of the fact that when Apollo 11 arrived, so they've moved on from well, America never got there. It was all in a movie lot, set in a movie stage. To well, actually, okay, they did, but now it's being covered up because the aliens were already there and watching us and warned us off, and that's why we never went back. Conspiracy theory. But the thing is, that transmission, because NASA said all of the transcripts have always been available. You can listen to the original Apollo 11, 12, 13, etc. recordings of all of the communications between the astronauts and Houston. And those transmissions saying, "Oh, they're all on the rim of the crater and they're all watching us and they're watching us play golf and blah blah blah." They simply never happened. But somebody claimed that they did. That has then become repeated, and it chimes with the beliefs of people who like to believe in some of the conspiracies.
Hmm. I agree. One of my
And
favorites about the moon, though, is that it's the Death Star, which is interesting because
Well,
that conspiracy never came out until Star Wars came out.
no, but the Death Star, I mean, the moon is the Death Star is too small.
Yeah,
The Death Star is way bigger.
unbelievable.
But there have been psychologists who have studied conspiracy theories in great depth, and they've published books primarily not about the conspiracy themselves, but about why is it that people believe conspiracy theories, and they have a certain theories as to why people believe in some of these conspiracies, even when they are shown the evidence to be false.
Mhm.
They will then, instead of just going, "Oh, crikey, I was wrong," they will often adapt their belief to incorporate the new information. So in the case of Apollo, it starts off with the whole thing was done on a movie backlot in Hollywood and was kept secret by thousands of people working on the Apollo project. I mean, they couldn't even keep the Manhattan Project secret. What hope Apollo with 50 times the number of people involved? Well, the reason that the whole thing had to be staged on a movie set was to cover up for the horror of finding aliens on the moon, and that they were there watching us, or Russians or Chinese or other versions of it. And the American population had to be protected from this information. And so they staged the Apollo landings on a movie lot to hide the fact that the aliens were there when they arrived.
Yeah. Birds aren't real, right? That was one of the famous ones.
Well, one of the best ones I ever heard, and it was while I was flying backwards and forwards to Boston every year, was that of course, jet planes can't travel at the speeds they travel. That's impossible. They don't have enough fuel. You couldn't possibly put. And there was a guy. It was actually Boston based. That's why it always cropped up every time. And he used to stand at down at the harbour at Boston. You've got an Star Island, is it? And is it Star Island? And the aircraft coming approaching to Logan. And he put up hundreds of videos of these aircraft. He said they don't move fast enough. Look, this one's hardly moving at all, and that one's nearly stationary. And they're supposed to fly the Atlantic at 600 miles an hour, and it was silly. It was just, and he changed the theory so many times. It started off with they can't possibly do it because they don't have enough fuel in the wings to carry, you can't get all of that gas tanker into that long, slender, thin wing. To the final version, I think, was basically the plane never moved and the Earth simply rotated beneath it.
Oh, there you go. It's all sitting on a little pin, right?
Well, the plane basically floated off the ground to a certain height and then just stopped.
Yeah.
And then waited while the Earth rotated down below it in and then came back down again when it was in the right place.
Well, anyways, that was the bell. We got to go. But speaking about hovering, I saw some nice footage of planes taking off from the Prince of Wales.
Oh yeah,
Well, it's pretty cool. Yep.
they are pretty cool. But we have a guest on the 26th. Just
Oh,
thought
we
I'd
do.
remind you. Yes, we have a.
If you can use the internet,
No. We've solved all of those problems.
all
now.
sorted.
All sorted.
Yeah. Of course, we all know that reptilians run the world. So shape-shifting reptilians are really the ones that Trump is
That's
one.
what. Yeah,
Your
yeah.
prime minister is one. Everybody is one.
Our prime minister is certainly not a reptile.
Oh, shape-shifting reptile. Yeah.
But he's certainly not human.
All right, we have to go. I don't want you to get in trouble with the thought, please.
That's true.
Anyways, we do have to roll. I want to thank everyone for listening, and that was not a conspiracy. That's from my heart and all my birthday wishes. Thank you very much today. As well, stay tuned for Ghost Chronicles, Book of Shadows with Marla Brooks and myself, and
We make work on your birthday, aren't they?
we talk. Yeah, see, I'm doesn't matter to me. I go right in, do my job. That's the way I roll. Anyways, we do have to go. Thanks for listening, everyone. Catch our podcast wherever podcasts are being played, and we'll see you next week. Good night. God bless.
Address all hate for this show to Ron.
Yeah, why not? Now feed it to the cat.
Remember, it's all just an opinion.
Oh, we should have played that one before. All right, conspiracies are put to bed. Hey, what's me?